Hello, and welcome to the Lighten Up podcast with Lauren Polly, your invitation for living on the lighter side of life. I'm Lauren Polly, and I am delighted you've chosen to join me today for episode 155, Want Something Different? How to Bring It About. It is so funny because so many of us are wanting something different. Sometimes we don't know what the difference is, and sometimes we definitely know what we would like different in our lives. A lot of us have been doing this subconsciously and or consciously, not just recently when you start looking at this, but pretty much all of your lives. There's been kind of an unconscious or subconscious ask you've been doing. A lot of times this plays out in fantasy land, in those quiet moments where you're by yourself and kind of have nothing to do in the outer world. So you start to spin and dream and fantasize. Those bigger aspirations, some come calling. You have that wish list that's there of, oh, wow, maybe someday. Or wow, if only. We have all those things that we play with kind of subconsciously, not realizing that they're an actualizable possibility and not realizing that just us being aware of it in our own inner space and playing with it in fantasy and dreamland and wishland actually means it is something that we can actualize if you're willing to bridge the gap to actually choose it and have something different show up for you. A lot of us have taken the beginning steps of bridging that gap, or some of you may have actually taken very successful leaps with this, where you went from being subconscious to it, a little unconscious to it, just kind of playing with it in fantasy land and having it be there in the background, to asking questions and using some tools to be able to bring what you desire for yourself into actualized form, into manifested reality, so that it stops being just a dream and just a possibility out there in the ethers, but actually gets to be an element of your life that you get to live with and enjoy and engage with daily. It's kind of fascinating to me because wherever you are on that journey, if you're just kind of still in fantasy land, if you've been making the beginning bridging steps, or if certain things in your life have actually changed, that's amazing. But you're still looking at how to actually have bigger change showing up, something more different showing up. What is it that will actually allow you to jump over that bridging gap to have it be easy, have it be fun, and have it actually show up for you? Well, it's kind of interesting because one of the bigger kind of stop points or crux points I see with my coaching clients all the time is that they have these fantasies, these aspirations, these asks to have something different. They have a sense of what it is. Even if it's not like a clear ask, they have a sense of what that different possibility is. But they are so ingrained in their habits, their routines, their patterning, their day to day, that actually being the energy that would allow those things to show up and doing the number one most important thing when creating change in your life, number one important thing, to actually take conscious action, to act on it, to be conscious, to choose it, and to act on those possibilities. A lot of people aren't actually bridging that gap in a consistent way. And therefore, that possibility continues to be pushed out into future, not really something that right now you can actually have and be. Or eventually you get there, but good Lord, the stops and the starts and the stops and the starts and the ups and the downs on the way, it makes it a lot harder than it actually has to be. So today I wanted to really focus on breaking out of the habits, breaking out of the routines, and really looking at how to interrupt your patterning so that something different could show up. Now, there are many different techniques that I personally utilize for myself and also with my coaching clients to interrupt these patternings. I'm sure you're familiar with it if you've been studying any kind of mindfulness or access consciousness tools or self-help tools, anything and everything out there. They all have different ways of doing this. And what I would say with that is don't stop seeking out that information. I mean, I'm one who doesn't stick to one tool. I utilize a myriad of them in different contexts because guess what? In different moments, different things work. So being able to actually have an arsenal of pattern interrupts behind you is a wonderful way to be able to stay tapped in and tuned in so that when you find yourself in a routine or habit or falling back to old patternings, you're able to catch it and employ something that's effective to change it. So today I want to go over some of my favorite pattern interrupts. My favorite one, kind of probably most that I use often in my life and living, is asking questions. Now, a lot of different modalities, a lot of different systems talk about this. I've got most of my information around this one from Access Consciousness, which says a question always empowers and opens up for more. An answer always disempowers and closes the door to something different showing up. So if you're looking for something different, being able to ask a question actually opens up that door for that difference to show up. If you're not in question, if you're in answer, or you're in rote day-to-day habits, your thought patterns, your behavior patterns, your energetic patterns, all of it is tied into the same old. So your fantasy life, your daydreaming life about something different showing up, those things you know would be possible for you, you're not able to bridge the gap because you're not actually in wonderment, in curiosity, in question about opening those doors to having it actually be so. You open the door with a question. You interrupt your pattern with a question. You actually get to challenge yourself with those questions. That's another one of my pattern interrupts, is challenging what you think is. This is something that I learned in traditional psychology way back when, of actually challenging your limiting beliefs. Being able to, again, notice where you're not in question, you're in kind of a rote pattern, or you're in a very stuck point of view, like money is always really hard to get. You have to work really hard for it. Or, wow, I actually can't go out with that person because they're way out of my league. I've been out with someone before like that and it didn't work out well. Or, wow, it'd be really great to switch careers right now, but man, I'm too old. I don't want to go back to the drawing board with that. You can feel into the energy of all those points of view. None of that is question. None of that is opening up the door. And all of that is based on limiting beliefs that you've bought as real and true for you. So guess what? Even with those whispers of possibility, those fantasies you have, bridging the gap into bringing them forward, never going to happen because you are stuck in those patternings of it's not possible. So asking questions, again, will open up what actually is possible here that I haven't considered. And playing with this challenging thing is a really fun one of like, okay, cool, let's take this out for a spin. Is it true that money is actually really, really hard for me to get? Let's actually go on a discovery path with that. Is it true that I actually can't learn something new in order to change my job? Let's go on a discovery path with that. And the amazing thing is when you put this request and this ask out there to challenge a point of view or a limiting belief that you've been stuck in, all sorts of experiences come your way that actually allow you to challenge that point of view. You may see a roadblock come your way that you've hit many times over. And every single time you've hit that roadblock before, what did you do? You got triggered. Your patterns came to the surface and you got sucked right back into that limiting viewpoint. If you ask the question and actually make this demand to challenge those points of view and those limiting beliefs, and you go about living your day-to-day life and those experiences show up to teach you, to challenge you, to show you that roadblock appears that you've hit before, recognize it. Oh, wait a second. I asked for this. I asked to be challenged. Awesome. So then before you get triggered and your patterns come back, interrupt it and say, cool, what else is possible here? What else could I choose? Or, wow, I wonder if I've created this circumstance based on my point of view about how hard things have to be. And this person over here, it's not hard for them, so I wonder if I could adopt what they're doing. Look for anything and everything that will challenge you to look outside of the box of your limiting beliefs. Being able to be in question and wonderment, being able to ask to be challenged this way will actually open up the doors to more possibilities. And kind of a really easy and fun way to break your habit and your patterning, which kind of sounds obvious, but none of us really do, is just to allow yourself to break out of your daily routines. You know, how often is it like Groundhog Day where you go to bed and you wake up the next morning and it's pretty much the exact same thing that went on yesterday? your clothing choices, your food choices, the people that you engaged with, the environments you were around. All of those things are just more of the same. So guess what? More of the same shows up. If you're actually desiring a different living for yourself, whether that is money or career or relationships or happiness or self-enjoyment, you need to start taking yourself out of your normal routines, mixing it up a bit, and start playing. Wear clothing that you normally don't. See what effect that has in your life. Instead of going left, go right down the street. Go to a different coffee shop than you normally do. Have a different conversation with someone that you normally wouldn't converse with. Eat lunch with a stranger. Eat lunch by yourself. All of these simple things that just break us out of our patterning are opening doors to different possibilities. If you are kind of playing with wanting something different to show up, but you find yourself more and more and more just getting the same result, it's because you're not doing things different enough to allow it to show up. You're not actually allowing yourself to explore the possibilities and the energies that would allow it to show up differently. This is one of the amazing things that I love about traveling is you actually get to go into a different environment where there's no reference points. Being able to be in a different place where the energy is very different, the points of view are different, the culture is different. Obviously, you don't have a daily routine. I went to Europe and Scandinavia for 4 months, and I didn't have a return ticket when I went. I just went out and booked one-way air travel all the way through. And it was the most freeing experience I ever had because there was no reference point. For me to kind of wake up in the morning, my number one target was to find coffee. Beyond that, I was wide open to just exploring and seeing where the day went. I always had my coffee target. But beyond that, I allowed myself to actually have the open space. And it was really funny because making a quote unquote re-entry back into the, coming home and going back to work and that kind of stuff, it was weird because I had been so without a reference point and living so differently for a while that I didn't have a hard time adjusting. I just kind of went, oh, wait a second, I don't have to adjust. I don't have to go back to how I was 4 months ago in order to function at a 9-to-5 job or to function in my business or to create or to go see my friends that I haven't seen in 4 months. It allowed me the space to actually show up differently because enough of my patterns had been interrupted. So I just invite you to play with this, whether you are asking questions and opening up a different possibility by interrupting your patterns that way, whether you're asking to challenge those limiting beliefs and those really stuck points of view that you have to open up the doors to something different, or whether you want to take that really playful approach and just do different stuff every day with your body, moving it differently, exploring differently with the energies of your environment, talking to different people, choosing something you normally wouldn't, or looking for a break from your normal day-to-day long enough for you to see that there's another type of living that's possible for you. If you're looking for something different, actually doing something different is required. It's absolutely required for it to show up in a real, true, and sustainable way. So if you've been exploring this, if you've been fantasizing about it, or if you've been using tools and kind of getting mixed results, I'm just wondering what this episode can open for you and what else is possible that you haven't considered. Have an amazing week, and as always, I will chat with you next Tuesday.